Hello friends, we are in Dash Core office and I'm very glad to be here and to have an opportunity to talk to Raianon Teylor, CEO of Dash Core. Hi Ryan.
Hi, thank you for coming.
Thank you for your inviting us to your office. Well, Teylor, we have some important questions that concern our people, on our Russian market, and they would like to know the information from your hand, from you, and to know your opinion. For example, first question about Dash evolution, of course, and how do you think? Why we have a little bit delay with it, and what opinion does Evan has some opinion about it? What's going on now, and what do you think about it?
Yes, so Dash Evolution originally was conceptualized back in 2015, and work was started on it in the spring of 2016. That initial work was primarily focused on potential designs and exploring what those designs could look like. And that very early work, Evan communicated a target timeline around and was aiming for development by the end of 2017. I think that that was overly ambitious timeline to begin with. At the end of the day, implementing something in a fully decentralized way is quite difficult, and something of this nature had never been tried before. We certainly had some hypotheses on different ways that you could do it, but didn't yet have a solid design that was tested. And so putting a timeline out that early on carried a lot of risk. And as we got into it, as we started hiring up a team and started to develop the solution, we spent a lot of time on research, because what we realized very early on is that a lot of these design decisions are very difficult to change later on. And we wanted to make sure that the system was as extensible as possible to cover as many different use cases and scenarios as we might imagine in the future. And so we really wanted to design it in a way that it could be configured in a lot of different ways for a lot of different use cases. And so it really expanded beyond the initial scope of having the ability to just be able to have usernames in the system, be able to send and receive payments to usernames, and some other basic functions to how do we make this so that other data can accompany those transactions, so that really any type of application could be built on top of this platform. And there was a lot of R&D that was done in order to test the different ways that we could do. Proof of concepts were built. A lot of that work was scrapped. And so I think we're at a stage now where we're getting a lot more clarity around, do we have a solution that is highly extensible, that does meet all the future use cases that we can envision, and even those that we can't? And what is it going to take to complete that process at this point? I think we have much more clarity on that now. And so a lot of the components have already been built. We've published demos of that work. The components are working. It's a matter of stitching those components together now at this point and putting the front end on our Dash Pay application, and we're ready to launch. And so, yes, the initial dates that were published were probably done so prematurely. Very early on in that process, at a point when we didn't have much clarity.
I see.
And I would say it's unfortunate that we did that. I think that we're taking the time, though, that is necessary to deliver the right product. We don't want to rush something like this out. We've made some tough decisions along the way between timing and quality of the product.
Uh-huh.
We've always erred on the side of the quality of the product.
So this is a new experience for all of us, and especially for software programmers to create dish evolution.
Yeah, and I think at this point we have a much clearer roadmap from here to completion, and you're starting to see that come out in the demos that we're publishing, that these back-end components work, they function together, and they have a lot of flexibility to them. And that's going to allow developers to build things on top of this platform much more quickly than the original design. That's going to have a lot of benefit to the network going forward, to allow it to grow faster, to allow new merchants and use cases to come on board more quickly. And I think it's ultimately the right decision that we made to build it in a more extensible way.
We haven't heard from Evan for a long time. What does he think about it, about the process?
So Evan,
does he participate in programming? I mean,
Evan no longer actively participates in the programming.
Why?
He does provide a great deal of input to the team, and Andy in particular, who's the chief architect, in terms of ideas, the design. Evan is a brilliant mind. He has an amazing ability to imagine a way to do something that very few other people could.
Strategically, you mean? No.
Yes, and so he works at a conceptual level and really comes up with ideas that the team then goes out and tests and ultimately will program. He's also working on ideas for years into the future. He likes to work kind of on those aspects of the project. What happens when the blocks fill up? What are the options for dealing with very high transaction volumes in terms of bringing new hardware solutions to the masternodes so that they can scale that way. Doing research and analytics on the blockchain. So he likes to work on the conceptual end of things and generate big ideas and then really pass those on to the team to test and decide whether or not those are viable. And that's where he works best. And so that's where we like to have him.
Okay, I see. Ryan, on June 2017, an open letter from you and Evan was published, and you told us about marketing concept and how to promote Dash on the market. And today, do we have the same strategy? Do we follow these letter recommendations, or we have a new vision for marketing?
So let me reiterate what was in that letter and the essence of it. Mid last year, most projects were promoting how much the value of their tokens had gone up over the last X number of months. And the focus was not on the utility of these projects, but on their past financial performance. And many projects were even promising future gains in their advertising. And they also were putting a lot of pressure on consumers to act now. Oftentimes there were countdown timers, and these still persist today. Promoting their projects as an investment opportunity. We thought at the time that was inappropriate. If these assets were considered securities, that type of behavior would actually be illegal in almost all countries. And I likened it to Microsoft advertising its stock rather than the utility of its software. And I believe, and still sincerely believe, that years from now, society will look back on this period and talk about how crazy it was that projects were advertising their price increases. I think that ultimately long-term value is delivered by the utility that you deliver to society. If we deliver a superior product that adds value to people's lives, our price will follow that. But we shouldn't lead with a message of this. And all that does is it attracts momentum traders, people that are investing only because it is going up, and those are the same investors that will sell when the price is going down. That leads to price volatility. And price volatility is actually a bad attribute for a currency to have. And so if we stay focused on the goal, providing the best currency and payment network possible, it's very easy to see that that type of advertising would not lead to the goal. In fact, it would detract from it. And so I still stand by the fact that we want to have integrity and we want to avoid that type of investor. It's not good for our users in the long run or in the short run, really. We could go out and advertise the price increases that we've had over the past year, and I'm sure that our price would, continue to rocket up as you attract that type of investor. Ultimately, those are short-term gains, and we're here for the long run. It also hurts people. The people that come in at that point in time are the ones who are most likely then to lose money when the price corrects. And like I said, it's a temporary one-time gain anyway. So we're building a real business here. We're not trying to pump our coin and promote it temporarily to draw in users that are attracted to that type of thing. So yes, we still stand by that. Of course, the community is free to do what it wants, but we're trying to take a leadership position here on what's right. The truth is, we don't know whether this is an appropriate investor for any one person. We're not financial advisors, and so we shouldn't be telling them that this is something that you should be investing in.
But well, I think sometimes this is necessary to recommend or to show the way we are going on, because not all Dash followers or investors as well, they are not marketers, and sometimes they don't know how to do it professionally. And in this case, I think this is very important to tell them how you see Dash promotion.
Well,
as professionals.
I think taking the high road in this particular situation has worked out well for us, because we've seen what's happened in the marketplace and with enforcement. They've really taken, the SEC and regulators around the world have taken a much closer look at the way that projects have promoted themselves, and that is an input into whether or not they consider them to be a security. And the fact that we have focused on the utility in any advertising or promotion that we've done will help us in that regard, and it will help us to be viewed positively by regulators. And so I think that ultimately that was the right decision. It continues to prove to be the right decision, and we'll continue to grow the project the right way.
What do you think? Why we see today a few budget proposals for voting? Not so many, like, for example, last month or in winter. What happens with it?
Well, I think there's a number of different causes for it, and there's a number of different reasons why people don't vote.
But the way they don't apply their budget proposals. I mean, we are monitoring the budget proposal lists, and this month there are not so many proposals as at previous period.
Yeah, and I think that you will see ebbs and flows in this. At sometimes the budgets are extremely full and extremely competitive. And that has the effect of a lot of people submitting a proposal fee that ultimately does not get approved. And when that happens, they may be discouraged, or others may view that happening and be discouraged from submitting a proposal themselves. At the end of the day, they have to have a lot of confidence that it's going to pass. That may follow with a few periods where there's fewer proposals going up to the network, and observers will see a high probability that their proposal may get passed. And so I imagine that there will always be this kind of ebbs and flows. The other aspect is the price. When the price is high, like it was in December, it can accommodate, the budget can accommodate many more proposals. And then when you see a price retracement like you've seen this year, the absolute amount or value of that budget drops. And so it's natural that fewer proposals of value can fit in that size. And so I think you'll always see, competing between the increased or decreased level of competition and the increased and decreased size of the budget. I think you'll always see that. I think the important thing is it's a self-correcting process. If very few legitimate proposals are going up to the network, and ultimately portions of the budget are going unused, that will encourage people to come forward with viable proposals to the network. And if the proposals shrink, I think you will see only the most confident and most valuable proposals being put up to the network. And so I think it solves itself.
So do you think this is not a problem that this month Dash has not many proposals?
Well, we'll
not
see
many
where,
ideas, I mean.
We'll see where it shakes out by the end of the month. I'm aware of some proposals that are yet to go up for this cycle that are very exciting. And so I think that only once a budget period is over can you fully judge whether or not it was a successful one.
What do you think about Venezuela? I mean, we've got a project there. I mean, Venezuela project and strong promotion in Venezuela. But now we know that the government of Venezuela adjust or introduce the national currency, cryptocurrency, El Petro.
Yes.
So how can we compete, or I mean, to be compatible with the national cryptocurrency? Because the government will, I mean, they will to make pressure to the people to use the national cryptocurrency.
Yes. So I think it's important to look at the situation as a whole in Venezuela. And I'm not sure how it will play out, but I don't necessarily think the petro is a bad thing. If anything, it is at least exposing everyone in the country to the idea of cryptocurrency. The fact that the government is putting forward one of these as an option certainly does a lot for awareness in the first place, and awareness is good. The second thing is, I'm not sure that everyone in Venezuela trusts the government when it comes to monetary policy. They haven't done a good job, and so they may view this as, hey, why do they feel the need to put forward a cryptocurrency of their own, and can I trust it? They may view it as Dash and other cryptocurrencies are a threat to what they're doing, and they're trying to put out a competitor to it. And so it may do a lot to raise awareness, and ultimately, if the people don't trust what they're doing, it may actually encourage the adoption of Dash and other digital currencies. So I think that it's an open question as to what kind of an effect it will have. It could be net positive, it could be net negative. So
we will see.
I think what we'll do is we'll put forward our story, and we'll put forward our solution. We think it's superior in a lot of different ways, and so hopefully people see value in it and use it. And we're doubling down on Venezuela. The Dash core team is hiring a country manager to help with the adoption at the merchant level. And so...
And do we have some success in it already with merchants? Because this is the important question for us, for our market.
Yes, so in Venezuela, we have seen success even just with the community efforts that have been going on there. There's somewhere between 100 and 150 merchants on the ground in Caracas that are accepting Dash.
They are already involved in Dash.
That's
payments,
right.
Yeah.
So there's a website you can go to and see all of the merchants in the country that are accepting Dash. There's a wide variety there. There's a lot in restaurants, bars and entertainment, and general shopping, as well as other services like car services and I think that what you're seeing is a natural adoption of this just because of the hyperinflation that they're in. I think with concerted effort being put into the country and building out channel partners that are going to go out and acquire merchants on our behalf, we can get into a lot more places. And this is on top of the money services aspect of Dash, right? The ability to send and receive remittances from abroad. Those services are in place, as well as the ability to store your wealth in Dash. Despite its volatility, I think there's more certainty that Dash will hold its value than the local currency, which is almost certain to lose value over the coming year. And so I think a lot of people are using Dash in a lot of different ways, not just for transactions.
Ryan, the last question. How do you encourage Dash core members when something goes wrong or they are sad about some things?
Sure. So, I mean, with any business, there's challenges. We see regulators stepping in and you know, in certain countries and either outlawing or doing something. I think that it's very easy for me to be encouraging towards Dash core team members because pretty much everyone that's joined Dash core is here because we're a missions-driven organization. And they really believe in the mission, and they really believe that this is a movement that can't be stopped. They really believe in the benefits to our governance system, to our self-funding model, and really believe that those aspects are going to allow us to win in the long run. And so it helps that everyone that's here already has such deep conviction in the project that when something bad happens, it's easy to point to it and say, look, this is a setback. This is a setback, but we're dealing with it in the following way. And ultimately, Dash isn't going to be treated the same way in all countries, right? There are some that will embrace it with open arms. So even when there are instances where we have a regulatory setback or something like that, we know that there are markets that we can go after to build the business. And ultimately, the benefits that digital currency brings to those markets will eventually force other countries to recognize that value and start treating digital currencies more fairly and for the benefit of their own economies. And so we sincerely believe that. And so when there is a setback, we may need to adjust our strategy, but we adjust and we move on.
Okay, I see. Ryan, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out and making the time to come and speak with me here.
It's very interesting interview. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye.
They're all affiliates of the university, and so you have to apply to be here. It's meant as an innovation incubator, basically.
Innovation incubator.
Yeah. And so there's lots of these little collaboration spaces like this where, you know, try to encourage people to get to know one another around here and the projects that they're working on.
Oi, Ryan, do you mind my showing?
No, I don't know. And each of the floors have little kitchens and things. I can see more of these like workspaces where people can just, you know, collaborate or work or whatever. And then here's the haunted offices here. And basically, we've got some space out here. There's like kind of HR sits right there normally. And then this pit right here is ours, where our head of strategy sits and our head of business development when he's here. We're going to be adding to the team, so